According to one author, proper practice knitting smooths the troubled spirit, and it does not hurt the untroubled spirit either. You don't knit because you are patient. You are patient because you knit. With this, I welcome you to another wonderful lesson, simple knitting and crocheting. Happy learning. Let's find out knitting and its road to fashion. During the 1920s, knitwear such as sweater and pullover play an essential role in the world of fashion, and it has become a fashion statement for both men and women of all ages, and has been associated with sports and such as golf, tennis, and cricket. The synthetic yarn and fibers were introduced in 1950, making it easier for the mass to produce their knits. Handmade knitting became a means of hobby as the knitting machine became rampant in the markets, producing ready-to-wear items and garments at a faster speed. With the advancement of technology now, some computer programmers provided more conveniences to knitters. Different styles and techniques in knitting were also implemented, which produced fascinating results and a wonderful experience in the world of arts and crafts. Now it's time for us. Let's learn more on knitting and crocheting. What does knitting mean? To knit means to work threads of wool or other materials in interlocking stitches using a pair of knitting needles. So all you need is that you need your wool. That is what it means by knitting, and you use them in interlocking stitches using your pair of knitting needles. It is used in many garments. Knitting may be done by hand or by machine. Now let's look at crocheting. What is crocheting? Crocheting means to work thread of wool or other materials in producing pattern using the crocheting hook. Can you see the two difference now? You need to work the thread. You are also making use of a thread of wood, but this one you are producing patterns using the crocheting hook. Now we want to look at essential knitting tools for beginners. That is the tools. They are very important for knitting for beginners like you. We have knitting needles. We have yarn, that is the wool, scissors, tapestry needle, measuring tape. I'm going to explain them one after the other. Now let's look at knitting needles. There are three types of knitting needles. We have the straight needles, there is one of circular needles, and the double point needles. Now these straight needles are used for most rectangular projects like scarves and washcloths, where the circular needles they have two needles head. They connected to a cord. You need them for larger projects like blankets because they can hold more stitches than straight needles. Double point needles, they are used for smaller projects, joining in the round like a crown of a hat when you want to make a hat. So these are the types of needles that we have. Then the wool, which we can also call it yarn, they have so many types of it, different weights, different fiber, and they have different colors. Other tools for knitting, we have scissors. You are going to need scissors to cut wool when you finish your project or you want to switch the color. Then tapestry needle. This is a large sewing needle with an eye big enough to accommodate bunking yarn. You will need the needle to weave in the tails of a wool left after you bind off your projects. Measuring tape. As we know, you can some patterns in the knitting, they call for a numbers of inch rather than a number of rows. So you need to take a proper accurate measurements. Okay, now it's time to find out essential crochet tools for beginners. Also, most of the tools in knitting, they are the same things with crochets. You have, the only difference is that you have a crochet hook. Now this crochet hooks comes in a different size and are made from different material. We have scissors, like I explained, scissors, you use it to cut. Then the wool, they are also different material too. We have wood there that you will use. We have a dining needle. Unlike the usual sewing needle, this needle used for crocheting also has a big eye for thread or yard in section. If you want to put it in, like I told you, the same thing. So you can see all these are the what? The essential tools. After you have all these things, it's important for you to get your what we call how will I put it now? Hook organizer. Is a small bag to keep your equipment. So you pack all these things together and put them in that bag. Now let's look at the article that can be knitted. We want to look at the article. What can you use? Article that can be knitted. Now we have so many. I'm going to give us common article that can be knitted, like a sweater, scarf. You can see the image there. We have bonnets, we have booties, pullover, gloves, coin purse, and so on. Okay, we check out the common articles that can be made through crocheting. Common articles that can also be made through crocheting. We have cap or bonnet, headrest, shawl, socks, table mats, decorative edges, mufflers, and so on. All these are the common articles that you can use to knit or to crochet. Different. Okay, let's check the difference between knitting and crochets. You know, there's a little difference between the two of them. Now, learning a new craft can be exciting, especially when it comes to knitting or crocheting. And then dreaming all the inspired projects that you can make. You may prefer one techniques over the other, or you may enjoy knitting and crocheting equally. Both share many similarities, like I earlier said, and have a common element, but they are also quite different in terms of techniques and results. In crochet, the stitches are more like knots. Now, in knitting, you use a pair of long needles to form the loops, removing a set of loops from one needle to another. The stitches are held on the needle. In crochet, uses a single hook to hook the loops together directly on the piece. So these are the little difference between the crochets and the knitting. Uses of simple knitting and crocheting article. Let's find check how we can make use of them. Now, the first one is that they are used to produce a personal or household article. Yes, you can use them to make use of your what you need. That's your personal or household article by them, like your sweater, or you can make headrest that is for household use. Also, you can make them by selling. You make money from them by selling the article that you make from knitting. That is another uses of it, making money by selling the article that you make from knitting. Also, knitting and crocheting, some people earn their living by them. That is what they do. That is their job. That is what gives them money daily. And finally, yes, some people, they do it for pleasure. Some, it can also be as an hobby. So you can see the uses of knitting and crocheting article. We said that we make them for personal and household use to make money by selling the article. It can be source of income earning for some people, and some you can do it for pleasure and take it as what, as an hobby. Care of simple knitting and crocheting tools. Now, to take care of this, we look at storing. They must be stored properly. Knitting machine must be dusted and put away carefully, and it must be stored in a dry area. Remember to follow the manual instruction. That is those people that make it. That is the maker instruction for care. Also, it is better to fold your knitted or crochet sweater to avoid stretching when you hang them. Laundry is another important factor in caring for your hand knitted and crocheted items. Most wool items should only be hand washed. Crochet item is as important step as making them. So handmade item can be become a treasured and last for many years with the proper care. That is all on knitting and crocheting. Hope you learned a lot. Knit and crochet help you to practice patience and creativity in the end. It will give you a special feeling of accomplishment. I can tell you, with patience and practice, you will get there. Get your tools ready for practical work. Don't forget, practice makes perfect. And remember also, handmade is not homemade. Do it right and wear it with pride. Bye.